So let's dig a little deeper into those two stories and look at some others the global media is grappling with on this Tuesday morning. So we have The Times leads, of course, with the Prime Minister's claim of victory in her talks with the EU on a Brexit withdrawal deal. Meanwhile, if you look at the Irish Times, it focuses specifically on what's secured with regards to the backstop. So it's described, as we've said, as legally binding changes to the Northern Ireland backstop. Other stories, Gulf News is looking at Boeing and the crash and how it will impact the aviation industry going forward as numerous airlines, as we've mentioned, ground their 737 MAX planes. Daily Telegraph, their business pages, is focusing on the United States, rivaling Saudi Arabia as the world's top oil exporter, while the Financial Times is featuring an annual list of modern purchases and what it tells us about our changing society. The so-called basket of goods that's used to measure inflation, it is changing radically. We'll talk about that. And then finally, the New York Times is looking at the ethical dilemma of what should be done with art produced by history's most evil leaders, the likes of Hitler, for example. Well, we have a regular, Cornelia Meyer, Chief Executive of MRL Corporation, with us to talk through all these stories. Good morning, Cornelia. Lovely to see you. So let's start with the front page of The Times. Every paper has got it. It was all happening late last night. Yes. Theresa May went in the afternoon to meet with Jean-Claude Juncker, and the two of them held this press conference. So the question is this enough for her to get her withdrawal deal through Parliament tonight?
It's certainly better. I'm not sure it's enough. But she has these three. She has a joint interpretative instrument. She has an alteration to the political declaration, and then she has her unilateral statement. So these are three
very
things.
Technical.
It's very technical, but what essentially she said, what she added to the joint interpretative instrument, is basically part, or has the same value as the withdrawal agreement, so it's legally binding. And there they say if the situation gets frustrated, they can go into arbitration and on the backstop, and they will work to have it sort of ending at least by December 2020. So the question now is, what does the Solicitor General, what does Geoffrey Cox, what does he say? Because last time, one of the things that led to the crushing defeat, that he said, he really didn't think there was anything legally binding to put a stop to the backstop.
That's right. I mean, it was Geoffrey Cox was grilled in Parliament. He's the Attorney General, of the government's top lawyer, who looks at the legal side of the deal and what it means for the UK in terms of our commitments going forward. And he will be presenting to Parliament today his opinion on what the changes are that have been brokered in the last 24 hours.
And what I found very interesting is yesterday I watched, obviously, Newsnight last night, and you had Jacob Reece-Mogg, the head of the European Research Group, the uber-Brexiteers in the Conservative Party, who said, look, he wanted to hear what Geoffrey Cox had to say. And also, he really was going to be informed by what the DUP, who prop up the Democratic Ulster Unions, who prop up the government, say. So a lot will depend on how they sway. Whether it's enough, I'm not sure. I don't think it's enough, because she was defeated by 230 votes. So she would need to sway 116 members of Parliament to vote for the deal this time.
So this article in The Times talks about Geoffrey Cox and the fact that he had to admit in Parliament before that the backstop could endure indefinitely. And that seems to be the key issue, which moves us neatly onto the Irish Times. And it looks at their headline, May and Juncker agree, in inverted commas, legally binding changes to the Northern Irish backstop. And the DUP so far has not said one way or the other what it thinks about these changes.
They said they would study it.
Indeed. So they're not coming out for or against prior to the first vote in January. The DUP said beforehand, we cannot
Yeah.
vote for this deal that she has presented.
Because they're all about the Ulster Unionists. They want to be part of the United Kingdom, and the backstop would mean that Northern Ireland, Ulster, stays in the customs union, whereas the rest of the UK leaves. So that would mean a hard border in the Irish Sea. So that's why the DUP is so exercised about it.
Yes, indeed. And the problem was with the Irish backstop, as it was there seemed to be no end to
exactly.
to that scenario, and that's what people have been calling for, isn't it? Some politicians have been saying we need to have a date when we do end this backstop.
Let us see where this. Let us see. Some of it is a little bit of a fudge. Let us see where it comes out in Parliament. What I found very interesting is watching the press conference was the body language of Jean-Claude Juncker. He just had enough. And I think in
he's saying there's no third time lucky as well.
He said there's no third time lucky, but the body language was so strong.
They said that last time.
Yeah, but
they said that before the January vote. This is it. No more movement in Brussels.
But the body language this time, I've rarely seen. You know, this is a top diplomat. These people have big countenance. This was quite something. That body language.
He was looking prickly. You were saying he was looking very prickly. All right, let's move on to Gulf news and the big story as well that's been dominating this week. That terrible, tragic, awful crash just close to Addis Ababa on Sunday, and the implications of all of this. We're hearing today in Singapore, of course, the aviation authority making their call there, etc. Gulf News is looking at the fact that this could really have a big impact on the aviation industry, and yet the US authorities are saying, no, we've looked at these planes, they are airworthy.
The US, as I said, they're airworthy. They are suggesting some modifications in the software, which Boeing has already worked on and is putting in. Boeing also says they may be doing something on how the engines are put up, or they're doing something on the hardware. But it's especially for Boeing, because if you look at the Boeing shares, they came down 13%. In the end, they came up a bit again.
They closed 11%. Down 5.5% lower on the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Biggest component on the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Exactly, absolutely. And the thing here is, when you look at the share price just after 9/11, it was $422.54, and yesterday it was $374. You know, after big rallies of shares. So these things are very bad for companies.
Let's have a look now at the business pages of the Daily Telegraph, and this is right up your alley because you work so extensively in the Middle East. You used to work at BP.
Yeah.
You know the oil industry extremely well. You work with OPEC as well. US to rival Saudi Arabia as world's top oil exporter. How surprising is this? It's not in a way, is it, with the shale industry in the United States? But some might argue, you know, Saudi Arabia's done all it can to stop this from happening.
No, but I would say what happened is two things. One, Saudi Arabia has overtaken Russia, and the US have overtaken Russia and Saudi as the biggest producer. And December last year, they started to export some. And obviously, if shale grows, as the IEA says, shale has been, it's the gift that never stops giving. It's just, they have just upped the reserves, and they think they've
But
produced
it's expensive,
more.
isn't it?
It's actually
and
less
with
expensive.
The oil price lower, it doesn't work for them, does it?
No, it does work for them because they have really put the cost down. You can now produce a barrel with $30, in some places even with $20. So it has really come down. It's not, the oil price is now nicely in the 60s.
So is Saudi Arabia concerned about this?
Saudi Arabia is concerned about this, but the thing that is not mentioned here is that crude does not equal crude. The refineries need heavy crudes, you know, highly sulfurous crudes like Venezuela or Iran. And this is very light, sweet crudes. And refineries can only accommodate that much of the light, sweet stuff. So we're taking all the heavy stuff out. So this is a problem for refiners.
All right, let's look at the Financial Times, looking at the basket of goods in the UK that is used to measure how prices are going up or down in terms of stuff that we all buy on a regular basis. And this basket has been updated to bring it into line with what we are buying and selling in these days. So the envelope is gone, the three-piece suite has gone. That is something of age old, apparently. The hi-fi has gone. Instead, we've got smart speakers, baking trays, shop-bought popcorn.
And electric toothbrushes.
Electric toothbrushes.
It shows the power of television. It's the bake-off that makes everybody buy baking trays. To bake things that are bad for your teeth, and then you need the electric toothbrush, which is good for your teeth.
How representative are these, though? I mean, you're an economist. When it comes to measuring price inflation, are they useful? I
think it's useful. You need to gradually update what people consume. Look, if we went with a basket of goods as it was in 1850, this wouldn't be relevant. So you do need to gradually and every year update. And, you know, we are becoming more technologically savvy. So there's smart speakers. So there's a smart speakers that are in. I don't have one of those, but the hi-fi is out.
It makes sense. And the three-piece suite, a thing of the past. Cornelia, thank you so much for being with us here on The Briefing. Thank you too, as well, for your contributions today. #BBC The Briefing to look at the debate. I'll see you soon.